Get ready for news and views from Lubbock, Texas, USA. What's going on and real talk with people who move and do things. This is the Focus LBK Show with your host, Robert Jenkins.
Hey, what's good, LBK? This right here is going to be a flashback episode to a conversation we had with Mr. James Watkins, who is a master ceramicist right here in LBK. And the reason we bringing it back is because last week when I was talking with Mr. Randy Groden, who is another dope artist who is visiting the area, Mr. Watkins' name came up. So I say, man, let me flash back to that conversation with master ceramicist James Watkins, talking about dreams, dust, and magic. Hey, what's good, LBK? This is your brother, Robert Jenkins, coming to you with another episode of the Focus LBK Show. Today, our very special guest in studio is Mr. James C. Watkins. He's an award-winning ceramicist whose career has spanned over 40 years. James is the winner of the 2023 Texas State Visual Artist 3D Award. He also just recently just got inducted to the West Texas Hall of Fame, which I had the pleasure of filming. James has artwork in 25 permanent collections, including the White House Collection of American Crafts at the Clinton Library, the Shigaraki Institute of Ceramic Studies in Shigaraki, Japan, the Renwick Gallery of the Smithsonian Institution, and many more. Mr. Watkins, I believe you taught at the Texas Tech College of Architecture for about 35 years. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, cool. And let me, if I could ask you to put that up and just kind of face me a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Get that right in front of you so we'll make sure that audio sounds good. Just jumping right into the interview. If you don't mind, I would like you to kind of tell the audience about how you got started in ceramics. But before you jump into that, you had a rural upbringing in Alabama, and you described your folks as makers.
Yes.
And I love the way you talked about that. Tell us about growing up on a farm in Alabama and why you call your people makers.
Okay. I was born in Kentucky, in Louisville, Kentucky.
Right.
But my family were a farming family, and we still own the farm, but my father has passed away. So my mother, she leases the farm out to another farmer. And we grew cotton, corn, hay, cattle. And so I grew up picking cotton and chopping cotton and all that kind of stuff. My interest in art was at an early age. I grew up drawing like most kids do, but I had this real passion for it, and I would fill up a pad of paper every day with drawings. We drew on Big Chief tablets. Those were the tablets that we worked on in class. And my mother would scold me because I would have to have a new pad every day. And one day my grandmother was there when my mother was scolding me. And she said, don't scold him. She called my mother Jen. My mother's name is Jeanette. And she said, Jen, don't scold him. He's going to be an artist one day. She said, I'll buy his Big Chief tablets. So she would buy a case of Big Chief tablets, and I felt empowered, you know. So I would do my drawings, and my mother, she got on board, and she started collecting magazines that had Draw Me advertisements in them. And she would critique my drawings. She didn't know anything about art, but she would say the eyes are too close together, or she would say it needs to be neater. And I would go back and do the drawings over again. And this became a real special thing between my mother and I. And from like the first grade all the way up to the when I was 15, this went on. And one day I came home from school and my mother and father were in the living room, and there was a strange Caucasian man in the living room with a briefcase and a portfolio. And I didn't know what a portfolio was at that time. We had a art class in my high school, but I went to a segregated high school and elementary school, and we were underfunded, of course, in Jim Crow, Alabama. And so I thought this man was coming there to take me away because I was 15, and this was in the 60s, turbulent time, and there were lots of horrible things going on, and I could have been, caught up in the, the calamity of all the stuff that was going on at that time. Mm-hmm. But he had drawings that my mother had sent in, and I had won a little contest. And so I was allowed to take a correspondence course, and that meant that they would send me a booklet once a month, and I would read the booklet, do the exercises, and then send them in, and they would send me tools, supplies, and my instructor would critique my work with tracing paper that he would put on top of my drawings and my assignments, and then mail me a grade. And so that's how that started. And so when I graduated from high school, I had a portfolio, and I was able to get into college with that portfolio. I'm sure I'm going on and on and on, so maybe you need to ask me another question.
Okay.
I'll keep going.
Right. Well, that's very interesting, and I did not know that about you from the research that I was able to do. I'm glad your grandmother had the foresight and the wisdom to say, no, don't scold him, let him go. What you said your people were makers. I think they made.
Oh, that's the question. Yeah.
Right. I think they made quilts and various types of country food dishes. Yeah. And has that influenced your attitude at all toward life? So
my mother and grandmother, they made souse, which is a type of meatloaf kind of thing, and you would use all of the byproducts of the pig. You boil it and mix it up with all kinds of spices and stuff, and then run it through a screen, put it in a container, and make like a meatloaf out of it, and then you make sandwiches out of it, and it was really good. And my mother and grandmother, they made quilts also, and they would wash clothes in these big cast iron cauldrons. Like once a year, they would have this ritual where they would boil all of the beddings. And they did this to get all of the mites out of the fabric. And my father, he fashioned, and grandfather, they fashioned many of their own farm tools, like handles and plow instruments and things like that. And so they were always making things and helping things. In the farming community, whenever workers would do things, you would get either people from the family or neighbors would come over and work. So there was always this festive, communal kind of activity going on, and always things dealing with fire. And my job was to keep the fire burning, working around the cauldrons. And I think that drew me to ceramics when I started working with ceramics and discovered ceramics. The nature of experimenting and changing the alchemy of firing, making something out of something that's so natural, so plentiful, so abundant everywhere, and then changing it into something that's going to be precious and artistic was really intriguing to me.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about that alchemy. When I looked into, I've spoken with a couple of different ceramicists over the last couple of years that I've been here, and I noticed that yourself included, that other gentleman that I was speaking with, and you guys talk deeply about chemistry and using chemical terms. It really is a chemical process, heating up various soils and chemicals. Talk to us a little bit about that, but also it's weird to me and very intriguing that there's so much science involved into the process of making ceramics.
Yeah.
But you seem to have a very deep spiritual edge to what you do too. How do you marry those two?
Thank you. The alchemy nature of it, I mean, one thing that's so interesting about clay is that it's abundant all over the world. And because of that, human beings have discovered clay simultaneously and independently of each other all over the world. So all people have made things out of clay. And they discovered that if you mix it with water, it makes it pliable, and you can form it into something and it holds its form. And then when you dry it and expose it to heat and fire, it becomes hard. It changes back from a soluble material into something permanent, and back into a rock. You know, that's why they call it stoneware. And then oxides, the chemicals that make the glazes, iron, cobalt, you know, all the other thousands of chemicals that you find. They're found all over the world, on the ground, inside mountains, inside hills, inside rocks. And so it's fascinating for potters to go out and dig up their own materials, and I like to do that. And when I first came to Texas, it was Christmas Eve, 1977, and it was the week of a major dust storm. And I'll never forget this. I drove into Lubbock, and you get that eerie, dusty feeling when you drive in. And I had never seen a dust storm before. And I drove in, and there was this rectangular shape that you get on the curb where the dust collects. And I got out, and I looked at it, and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And me knowing something about clay and materials, I thought I can do something with this. So when I got settled and got my studio going, I started collecting it, and I started experimenting it with the dust, mixing it with water, mixing it with other materials, and firing it to different temperatures and finding out what it would do. Then I started incorporating it into my work and making the work have some relationship to the place where I live. And that seemed to be something that people really were interested in, and made them more interested in my work, and made the work more personal, and made me more excited about going out, experimenting, and doing more things with images and ideas that related to this environment and my place where I live.
And you've said many times that you've kind of taken a bit of Lubbock all over the world, incorporating that dust.
Yes.
Something that most people would think is not exciting and not a good thing. You found something in it, and that's a theme that I've noticed running through a lot of the art that you make. For example, you make covered jars that, as I understand it, were influenced by the cotton gin cyclone dust collectors. And I'll have some on this article when we put this out. I'll put some pictures up there of those things. But they're influenced by these cotton gin, these pieces on the cotton gins. And you use that West Texas dust in your slips, and you laser cut these architecture tiles that feature spiral patterns in there. And when I was talking to you the other day at the studio, at your studio, you mentioned how that came from seeing those the irrigation patterns in the fields, which is very prominent when you're flying in. You can't help but notice that. I mean, if you're at all curious about the world around you, you look at that. I looked at it with awe and wonder, and it's amazing that you did too, and you incorporated it into your work. And so I guess the question there is, it sounds like, well, you've kind of answered it. It's kind of a deliberate choice of yours to reflect the environment in your artwork. Do you think that's what an artist is supposed to do?
Well,
Is that a part of it?
I don't know if it's not a like a golden rule or anything. I think there's enough ideas and points of views and ways to go about things that I don't think you can make a flat statement like that.
Right.
But that's the way I work and the way I approach my work that way. Yeah, I don't have any trouble with ideas. I have more ideas than I have time to get to. And that's just the way I work. I keep a journal, a dream journal. I keep a drawing pad next to my bed, and I have a routine that I do each night before I go to bed. I tell myself that I'm going to remember my dreams. I'm going to become conscious while dreaming. And sometimes I'll have these incredible dreams. Well, I'll actually dream a piece that's finished, and I'll see it in my dreams, and I'll wake up and I'll draw it. And then the next day I'll make it. The answer to a problem that I was having when I first started making the big double wall pots came from a dream. When I first started making the big double wall pots, or the big single wall pots, it was because of the experience of working with my grandparents, helping them make the hominy in the big cast iron pots. Then I wanted to make these big pots that were single wall, and I wanted them to be on tripod feet. But when I would make them, they would warp in the kiln. So if I had them on 3 feet and I fired them, after they were fired, the rim would be triangular.
Right.
So one night I dreamt that I was in Santa Fe, and I saw my work in a gallery, and I went over and I reached out and I touched it, and my dream became lucid. I was aware that I was dreaming, and I touched the pot, and I examined it and noticed that it was hollow on the inside, and it was double wall. And in my dream, I realized that the fact that it was double wall, and that inner wall kept it from warping. So the next day I started experimenting, and I made a whole bunch of double wall pots, and the weeks after I made them, I fired them, and they didn't warp, and that was it. And so that got me into doing the big double wall pots. But then later on, I found out that there were other people who had done that. I just,
Right.
I just discovered it simultaneously the way other people did. So
I'm intrigued by that because in a previous life I was a linguist in the Air Force.
you think so? You think? Oh, you mean in real life?
Yeah,
not like
right.
reincarnation.
No, not at all. It just in the previous part of my life.
Yeah.
And when I was studying my first language of Spanish, we're out there at Monterey, the city of Monterey. And we were all, young cats in the military, and the rumor was that everybody knew somehow is that when you were studying your language, there would become a point in time when you got good at it, and if you got good enough at your language, you would dream in it. So everybody on base was waiting, just waiting for that. Oh, when's it gonna happen? And at one point, I don't remember how far it was into the train, I had a dream one night, and it was in Spanish.
Wow.
And the funniest thing about it, I didn't know most of the words that I was dreaming, but they were real words.
They were real words, and you were just saying them.
I wasn't saying them. I was laying there just beneath the surface of consciousness and kind of drifting off. And I heard a voice saying, soy un tecolate. que vuela con alas prestadas.
Wow.
And it kept going and going. And I was like, oh, I said, that's what I said in my dream. I said, wow, that's beautiful, man. That's almost like a poem. That's what I'm thinking to myself. And then something deeper said, you fool, that is a poem. Get up and write it down. And I woke up and I wrote it as best as I could remember it down. And I was like, what are these? I don't even know what a tecolote is. So I had to look them up when I got back to class. And I talked to one of my professors. He was like, where'd you get that word from? And I was like,
really?
I don't know. It's what is it? She said it's an owl, but it's an older word. It's not a bujo. It's
man.
Tecolote.
Wow.
What? And so that's why I love to hear you describe how
That's
that came
awesome.
to you in that dream. You know, they say Tesla, Nikolai Tesla used to dream about stuff. And
Wow.
I think Edison maybe,
Yeah.
many of the great inventors and artists of our time or previous times too have dreamt about stuff. So I'm fascinated by
Yeah.
that. That's just amazing.
That's incredible.
How much stuff comes to you in dreams?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get into the more mundane questions. I want to kind of keep mine in that the more I don't know, the more I don't want to say esoteric parts of it, but I find that part is extremely interesting. How long have you kept a dream journal, and why did you start doing that?
Well, my mother was always interested in dreams, and my grandmother and things like that. So they talked about dreams, and we would in the mornings we'd wake up and we would talk about dreams around the table. What did you dream last night? And so this was just a thing that we did, and I do it with my kids, and my wife and we do the same thing. So it's something that I grew up with and just always been interested in. Yeah.
Right. And I think I've read somewhere how you described how you guys believing in dreams, but also in the way colors influence your emotions and your psychological or psyche.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you are making a piece, I think you may have touched a little bit on this, but when you're making something, do you always or often see it before it's done, or do you sometimes? I think I read somewhere Michelangelo or somebody said the sculpture tells him, the rock tells him what the sculpture should be. How is it for you?
Well, both ways. Many times I'll have an image in my head of what I'm going to make, because I'll either see it in a dream or I'll draw it, and so I know what I'm going to make. And then other times I'm just playing. I'll go out in the studio and I get on the wheel and I'm just working. I'm just making something on the wheel, and what it's going to turn out will be happenstance. It's just the flow. I'm making decisions as I go along, and sometimes it's a happy accident, and then I'll go with that from whatever that is becomes the point of departure for something else.
Right.
And so whatever that form is leads me to something else. So each form is teaching me to make something else, because I'm looking at it and I'll say, I'm contemplating the piece. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what if I changed it to something else just a little bit more, make it a little bit bigger, make the form, change it a little bit more at the bottom, and just add something different to it. So I'm seeing this all in my head. So that's how I'm working. So it's a building up and evolutionary process that takes place, and I'm changing as it goes along. So it's a growing piece, and it's a lot of fun.
You talked about contemplating the work. That's another thing that you have taught me doing the research on this. I do a little photography class with some kids here locally, and I was so enthralled or interested is I guess the best word. Taken by that concept of contemplating the work that I was like, man, I'm going to start doing that in class. And it's funny because these kids are about 12, 13, 14 years old. And I discovered really quickly, they don't want to hear a bunch of lecture and They just want to get the cameras and get the clicking, which is, I understand that because I do too. But when we sit down and contemplate the work, which we do now before every class, they actually sit down and do it. And
Great.
they give me feedback, which was like pulling teeth, trying to get them to talk. So how do you feel about this? They want to talk. How you feel? But now when they're looking at their own work, they give me, I could probably let the class go for an hour just doing that.
That's
without
great.
even taking pictures. Did someone teach you to contemplate the work? Is that something that you just came upon, or
I was probably taught that. I don't remember any specific teacher right off, but yeah, I'm sure my other instructors led me toward that thinking, because in all my art classes we would have critiques and we would all sit around in a circle and talk about our work. So that way, it's just a normal way of teaching. So yeah.
Interesting. You've taught at, of course, Texas Tech. You've taught at the Ho Chi Minh College of Architecture, I believe, in Vietnam. We mentioned the Shigaraki Institute. When you teach your classes, how does a ceramics class go? How do you?
Okay.
What does that entail?
Well, it's a laboratory. It's a lab. So you have all kinds of equipment and chemicals and clays and you teach technique. So you have to teach them how to use the equipment, how to use the potter's wheel. So there's a lot of practice, a lot of giving demonstrations and hands-on. Me actually touching their hands and helping them learn to coordinate, and that it takes quite a while to learn how to do that. You might think that it's simple, but it's not, because you have to learn to become ambidextrous. You learn both hands, and you have to learn to use your hands together and in coordination with each other. You're using your fingers together and making them work together. And then learning chemistry, calculating glazes and measuring empirical formulas and things like that. And then you have to learn how to fire the kilns, and that can be complicated and dangerous, because you're dealing with gas, natural gas, and you could burn down the building if you don't know what you're doing.
Wow.
So there's some moments where you have to really watch the students and babysit them. But it's a lot of fun, and the students usually get very committed with what they're doing. And I've had students come outside of the area of art, like doctors and lawyers. When I was teaching for the city of Lubbock with the Parks and Recreation Department, I had one class that had a doctor, a short order cook, auto body mechanic, a lawyer, high school teacher, a high school student, and everybody coming together wanting to make the most beautiful thing that they could out of clay. And they represented all the ethnic groups in the community, and we were all working together in harmony. And it was just the most beautiful thing in the world. And I worked for the city for 5 years doing that before I started working at Texas Tech. And it was a great way to be introduced to the city of Lubbock. I don't know how many people get the opportunity to come and do something where people are working in harmony and having fun. And then at the end of the semester, we would have a potluck dinner where we would all bring food, and we would cook food inside the kiln. And then we would have Christmas sales at the end of the year to sell the work that we made. And it was just a lot of fun. So it's been a good ride here in Lubbock. I've been happy here.
I try to, that's one of the things that we try to do on this show. That's why we call it Focus LBK. We're focusing on LBK. I was raised here. I was born in Maryland. My dad was a military man too. But we came here when I was 2 or 3.
Oh, wow.
Came back home. And I've been here, I stayed here up until I was 20-something, and I went to the military. But I purposely came back. And a lot of people find that weird and strange, and they think Lubbock is, Lubbock this, doesn't have this, doesn't this, little is that. Well, first of all, it's not really that little. 265,000 people is not little, I would say. But the other thing is, I find a lot of good things about Lubbock, and it seems that you do too.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite things about Lubbock?
Well,
you've been all over the world. Why do you call Lubbock home?
I like that it's easy to get in and out of. You can get around the city anywhere in 15 minutes, and you can get anywhere in the world from Lubbock. Good airport. We have a lot of culture that comes here through the Buddy Holly Hall. We have a good museum, art museum here. And the art department brings in lots of good cultural programs. And so does the music department. So it has everything that I need.
Right.
And my kids grew up here and had a good education, good school. I felt safe here. I even like the weather, the dust storms, and get to see a little snow, but not too much snow. Yeah. So, no, it's great.
You've noticed some of the same things about Lubbock that I have, and some of the same things I like. Going back to teaching a little bit, what is your favorite thing about teaching? What's the best experience you ever had teaching, other than the one you described?
Well, I really love working with the students. When I was teaching, I taught for 35 years in the College of Architecture. And the thing that I disliked about teaching the most was the committee work and all of the bureaucracy of teaching and working in the university system. But one of the committees that I worked on was the scholarship committee, and I worked on that for the whole 35 years that I was teaching, and I volunteered to work on the scholarship committee. It's a lot of work, but it was the one committee where you could really see how the students would grow those 4, 5, 6 years that they were there. And the way the scholarship committee worked, the students would apply for the scholarship. They would fill out their applications, and they turn in a portfolio with examples of all of their work, and they write a mission statement, and then they would have an interview with the scholarship committee, and we would sit around in a circle at the table, and we'd ask them questions, and they would present their case why they needed the scholarship, and we would question them and ask them about why they wanted to be an architect, and they would tell us, and we would hear them from the freshman year all the way up through graduate school, applying for scholarships. And when they first came in as freshmen, they were so naive and so nervous and had no idea what they were talking about. But then through the years, you could watch them progress and grow and become so articulate and so sophisticated. And so you could see the education. You could see them becoming educated people and informed and sensitive people. And you knew that what you were doing was having an effect on them, that you were teaching. You could see it. And so that was the most fun. And it made me feel that I was really doing something and had a purpose, and that I was a teacher. Yep.
Sounds very much like doing ceramics, shaping clay.
Shaping somebody, yeah.
Huh.
It was great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. It's why do you do ceramics?
Wow, that's like, okay. That's like asking, why are you an artist?
That's really what I'm asking.
And I think the answer is I don't have a choice. Artists are people who you have to be an artist. You just, it's in your genes. It's in your blood. You can't do anything about it. You have to do it. If my grandmother hadn't bought those Big Chief tablets and let me draw my heart out, no telling what would have come, what I would have turned out to be.
Right.
Because it was just a passion that had to be explored, and then the clay, probably because of the experience of working with my parents around the fire and me being drawn toward firing things, pulled me toward clay and working with my hands. Pulled me into it, and now I'm just hooked. I just love it. I couldn't imagine not doing anything else. I have to get in there and work with clay. When I started working with the laser cut pieces, that was an idea that came from looking at my work. When you're firing pots, you have to leave a hole in the kiln, and you plug it with a brick, and then you take the brick and pull it out so you can look in the kiln and look at the fire and see how hot it is, and you leave a cone pack. They're these little rectangular things that are stuck in clay, and they melt at a certain temperature. So you look inside the kiln, and when they melt at a certain temperature, you know how hot it is. So when they melt, you know when to cut the kiln off. So I started making these laser cut pieces of drawings of pots and with brilliant colors. And that came from looking at the pots, looking through the spy hole, and I can see the pots in the kiln. Okay, so I started making these laser cut pieces. And the laser cut pieces are a type of drawing. They're almost like a painting, and they're very time consuming, but they take me away from working with wet clay. So, and I like them, and they're lucrative. People like them. They want to buy them and everything, but they take me away from working with wet clay. So in order to not have to make the laser cut pieces anymore, I donated my laser cutter to the College of Architecture, so I don't have to do that anymore.
Okay.
So now I only have my potter's wheels, so I have to go in and make things with wet clay. So that's just how much I'm involved in working with wet clay.
Wow.
And I don't want to be distracted.
Well, I'm a little bit sad to hear that, because those laser cut tiles are amazing.
I know, but they take so much time away from working with wet clay.
So by the way, you answered the next question, or question that I had in that answer.
Okay.
I was going to ask you to explain the cone system, but basically you hit on it. It's already. So what are these cones made out of?
They're made out of clay. They're made out of a formula of clay that melts at certain temperatures. So, it's a mixture of clay that the chemists figured out that this clay will melt at 1900 degree, this clay will melt at 2000 degree, this will melt at 2200 degree. Yeah.
What is, so when you say 4 cone or 12 cone or?
So the cones are named.
I see.
So that you know which cone, which temperature, like cone 04, 03, 05, 06, cone 1, cone 2, cone 4. So they go up, the temperature goes up according to the number.
I see. Higher the number, the higher the
higher,
temperature.
yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. When I was reading that, some of the stuff, I was like, what are cones? What are these? Here's the follow-up question. So that question was, why do you do ceramics? The follow-up question I have to ask is, what if you could not do ceramics?
If I could not do ceramics, I would do drawings. I would draw or paint. Yeah. So if something happened to my hands and I couldn't pull the clay up, I would paint with my mouth, or like way other people do, paint with their toes or whatever. Yeah. It was just something. It's the idea of being creative. It's the idea of needing to make something.
Right.
Yeah.
You were recently, I think I mentioned at the top of the show, recently inducted into the West Texas Walk of Fame. That was awesome. In great company. A lot of good artists up there. Are there any other awards that you have received that are coming up that we don't know about yet? Or do you have any other? I know you have a show. You're getting ready to ship off some things.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about what's in the future for you?
I have a show at University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and that'll be in January. And I'm going to give a lecture and have 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces in a show in Tuscaloosa. So I'm in the process of packing them now.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that close to your hometown at all?
I grew up in Athens, Alabama, and that's in North Alabama. Tuscaloosa is more in the mid Alabama.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah.
kind of a homecoming, but
Yeah, kind of a. I'm probably going to go home and visit my mother while I'm in Tuscaloosa. She's 92 years old, so I need to go visit her.
Right. Well, let me ask you one or two final questions.
Okay.
What would you say, especially since you've given us that window into how you got your start with your grandmother? What would you say to parents or parents of kids who may have that artistic streak, and what would you say to young artists who are sure they or feel like they want to be an artist, they want to do something? What advice would you give them?
My advice to young artists would be to learn your craft, to study, to look at everything that you possibly can and see that when you go to art school, you're going to hear your instructors talk about learning to see. And what that means is to not take anything for granted, to be sure to look at everything, look at shadows, look at reflections, because in those things you can get ideas. Ideas are everywhere. And ideas are the things that you need to be an artist. You need to be motivated, you need inspiration. So you can get inspiration by looking and seeing. And what was the other question?
Just had to do with, I've kind of forgot how I worded it there. Oh, it was advice to the parents of
To the
those.
parents, I would say be supportive of them. Don't think so much about money and how they're going to make a living. Think about their happiness, because if a person is happy with what they're doing and they're motivated, they're going to find a way to make a living. So don't worry about that. Just be supportive of them so that they're happy and productive people.
Wow. That's actually really good advice. Mr. Watkins, is there anything that you want to leave us with that I haven't touched on?
Not that I can think of. I think this has been good and a lot of fun. And thank you. Thank you for asking me to do this.
Oh, it's definitely my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. I've learned a lot, and I will say, don't be surprised if I reach back out to you if I hear some news about you.
Okay.
And really I personally didn't get enough time in your studio, but you're a very busy man, so I would not presume to ask to come back.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's got an amazing studio and his work is amazing. We're going to have some pictures down here under the video here. So we hope you guys check them out. Leave me a comment down there. You got some questions? Maybe I can email them or something if you had some comments or questions. And with that, thanks again for coming on the show. And LBK, this is what I'm talking about right here. This is why this is a good place to be. You got world-renowned artists, just like Mr. James C. Watkins, who are down to earth enough to come on a podcast, but yet who are talented enough to travel the world on the strength of their artistic endeavors. So yeah, LBK is the place to be in my book. And with that, we're going to say 2 digits, and we'll see y'all next time.